Being Brexit supporting and a sort of Tory voting and decidedly right wing of centre won't necessarily guarantee too many comedians a booking on a big left leaning TV gig. But somehow my guest next somehow makes this work. His tour, his book, and his politically charged podcast, to be perfectly honest, are very funny and selling brilliantly too. I absolutely hate him. Geoff Norcott, where did it all go right, my son?
Well, the funny thing is, there you say about it's hard for me to get on things. I would say that I'm one right winger that can't deny I've benefited from diversity quotas. I have. It's quite clear. These lefties, they've actually did me a turn because, at some point, certainly after Brexit, people felt, who are these people that voted for this thing? 52% of the public.
Yeah.
And maybe we should have one of them on our shows.
Listen, Geoff, always delighted to have you on. Lots in the news. Do you call it Omi or Omicron? How do you say it?
You know what? Probably like a lot of your listeners, I'm kind of going to batten down my faculties.
Yeah.
And just see what happens with this one. I've not made any space in my brain for it changing. I know, obviously, the law's changing from Tuesday, but we just don't know anything at this point. We don't know much about whether it's particularly vicious. So I'm going to the ignorance is bliss. I'm going to go for ignorance on this.
I quite like that. You've talked about going from no gigs in lockdown to recently being completely burnt out because you couldn't say no to anything, you dirty git. And the podcast, which genuinely is fantastic, what most people think. So what I want to know is, what do people think about Keir Starmer? Obviously he's had COVID 1,433 times and never turns up. That's never great, is it?
Yeah, he does seem particularly susceptible. He's had a shocker today, really, hasn't he? I remember that reshuffle back in May. It was an absolute shocker. He blindsided Angela Rayner. And today he's gone for a little sequel. He's gone, I'll have another go at that. He's sort of basically done, the film Cats? He's done the Cats 2 politically. The sequel, literally nobody thought should be made. He's managed to do it again.
Botched again. See, this is what I don't get. A lot of people criticise Boris and Geoff. They might well be right. But there's nothing. I don't buy Starmer, not because I'm being horrible about his politics. I just don't buy him as a human being. When he talks to me, I'm not inspired to listen. I was inspired, if I'm honest, to listen to Blair when he started, and I mean that. There was something about him.
Me too.
There's nothing about Starmer, is there? Nothing.
I think he is. He looks like, one of those managers. He looks like a League One manager. So the guy that was the assistant manager, and then the main manager gets sacked, and then suddenly he's the manager of Charlton.
He looks like Brian Kidd, doesn't he? He looks like Brian Kidd, never quite made it. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know, sometimes I feel quite sorry for him. What gets people most upset then? Do you think Conservative cock-ups or Labour's lack of meaningful opposition? What gets people going most?
I think it's a very interesting time comedically where you've got a lot of Conservatives that are unhappy with the Conservatives, and you've got a lot of people on left and included on right. It can sound a bit trite to say it, but we do need good opposition, and we haven't had it for a long time. Yeah. But it does feel like the Labour Party have got this simmering family fight that just needs to happen in a big metaphorical car park somewhere. It just needs to, they need to get it out of their system, because currently what they're doing is they're putting sticking plasters over it. But this fight for the heart and soul of the Labour Party has basically been on ice ever since Corbyn got in. And I think that the British public, they might think that the Tories, and quite rightly, there's a lot of problems there, a hell of a lot of problems. But the Tories love power so much that they'll pull together, they'll find a way. They're almost like a family member that's heard that they're going to get a good inheritance. They'll get into line if they know that there's some money coming.
It's a bit like, I agree with that. It's a bit like when push comes to shove, they'll all stand together and hold hands, and the British public will go, we don't trust the Labour Party, and that'll be it. Interesting though about Boris. Do you think the British public are tiring of him then?
I do. I think that there's a point where the joke wears thin, especially if the joke isn't that strong. In the first place. Currently he keeps doing this, we're going to boost our booster campaign. And I think that if you're one of his team, you're probably thinking, it's not that good a line, mate. You're busting it out like you've just written an absolute...
Oh, look at that. Oh, that's actually the most... He went, Geoff Norcott was in full flow.